Hello, Nigerians. It's a wonderful day for all of us across the divide as Nigeria marks 59th anniversary of independence, which blazed 1st October 1960. Omini Odan is my name. The journey since independence, many say, have been progressive and eventful, though not without challenges that slowed development and growth. It is widely argued that the Civil War and subsequently bad governance, a departure from the nation's founding fathers' ideologies, affected the country's progress, giving rise to agitations, mistrust, and insecurity. There are interesting developmental strides that have earned international commendations in giving Nigeria the pride of place in the Committee of Nations. At 59 years of independence, calls are intensified for unity of purpose and sacrifice for building the nation. President Muhammadu Buhari, in his nationwide broadcast, says time has come for all Nigerians to bury their differences and work assiduously towards achieving a united, prosperous, and purposeful nation. The president says he's optimistic that in the face of the 21st century, opportunities and challenges, Nigeria will emerge stronger and more resilient than ever. Tonight, Nigeria's 59 years is the focus on Tuesday Live with reports from across the country. But first, this background report put together by Timothy Yusuf.
The 1st of October every year will remain evergreen in the memories of Nigerians. This is because it was on that date, some 59 years ago, when Nigeria got her independence from her colonizer, Britain. From 1960, when such independence was granted to Nigeria, the nation leaders deemed it fit to declare the day work-free day to enable citizens celebrate.
When the Union Jack was lowered, that signified the end of that era. And then with hoisting of the Nigerian flag, we began an era that has taken us up to this point, 59 years.
We really have moved from where we were to where we are at this point.
Nigeria is 59 years old. We thank God for the journey so far. Our democracy is now stable.
The Independence Day used to be a day of big celebration from local to the national levels, and citizens were always looking up to that day, especially pupils and students of primary and post-primary schools, who usually exhibit their talents in march past and other extracurricular activities. 73-year-old Sylvester Onoja was among those that participated in the activities of 1st October 1960.
It was a day of liberation. Before we came to 1960, the elections of 1959 was very well conducted. I remember Obafemi Awolowo was running, and he had a banner in Ankpa at that time, the man with a plan.
In the last 1 decade or more, independence celebrations have been done in low-key, perhaps due to security challenges and other sundry reasons. As Nigerians mark another independence, the 59th in the series, some Nigerians have attributed the positive developments being recorded in the country to the collective pursuit of a common vision of Nigerians through hard work and dedication after the missed opportunities and disappointments that followed the return to democracy in 1999.
Nigerians are doing well all over the world. I don't think there's any African countries you can match with Nigeria.
Tough times will always be there for us as a people. All we need to do is work on our areas of strength, lessen the emphasis on our diversity, on our ethnicities, and as expected, we are a great nation.
Other Nigerians have promised that they will continue to work tirelessly to promote, protect, and preserve what really matters. That is a united, peaceful, prosperous, and secure Nigeria where all, irrespective of background, can aspire to succeed.
Nigeria has accepted democratic culture and norms.
What we need to do now is to go back first to the development of our youth, because there is a generation of youth that we have lost.
We have gone a long way as a country at 59, and it can only be better.
Sylvester Onoja and some other Nigerians are asking, how has the journey to nationhood been 59 years after? What are the challenges and what should be done going forward to realize the dream of the founding fathers? Gets on Tuesday Live are set to provide answers to all these questions.
Answers to the questions will really be provided, and Tuesday Live is an audience participated program. At some point, calls will be put through to our viewers who raise their concerns, ask their questions, and the team of guests tonight will be having guests from Abuja here and from Kaduna, and also from our Lagos Network Center who will put you through to the concerns raised. Nigeria's 59th independence anniversary, the journey so far. Tonight, I have, from my far left, Senator Abdullahi Adamu, Chairman, Senate Committee on Agriculture and former Governor of Nasarawa State. He's a lawyer and engineer by profession. Good to have you on Tuesday Live tonight.
Good evening, viewers. Happy anniversary, fellow Nigerians.
Dr. Sally William Chinebu, lawyer, teacher, and politician. She is the immediate past APC Southeast Zonal Women Leader. Good to have you on the program.
Thank you. Thank you, Nigerians.
Okay, and if the network centers are ready, we'll be notified and we'll get there as appropriate. But quickly, we have heard the reactions by Nigerians across the divide, but let's take off with picking up some takeaways from Mr. President's broadcast to the nation today. There were key takeaways, and as usual, there are certain surprises he normally brings up. And clearly, this is one of his longest speeches to Nigerians. Taking off from the one he talked about, Nigeria's population poses challenges as well as opportunities. And he says that should not deter Nigeria. As much as the country, the government will do everything to provide for the citizens, but that should also be a strength Nigeria should use among the Committee of Nations. What do you make of that?
I think first and foremost, I want to take one striking point that my president, Mr. President, said today, and that has to do with Niger Bridge.
Okay.
That is very, very striking for me. He was very firm. He gave Nigerians assurance, and particularly we Igbos, that 2022, that bridge will be completed. You know how many years Nigerians have been on it. You know how many years the past governments have been on it. And yet, nothing was done. But Mr. President Muhammadu Buhari started work. And I'm very convinced that by 2022, that Niger Bridge will be completed to the glory of God. For me, that is very, very striking. And it's like it's been a dream, a white dream that can never come true. But today, stage by stage, they're showing us the work going on in the Niger Bridge. It's one of the things I would say that Igbo man who is benefiting from the government of this day. And for me, it's a very beautiful independence gift for we Igbos. And 2022 is like tomorrow for me. And we are going to get there by His grace.
So what do you make about what you talked about, the population of Nigeria posing challenges?
We are growing per day. Every day now we are growing. Our population should also give us concern. I must say that. But we are working very hard. Nigerians are working very, very hard. Nigerians are very entrepreneurial persons. I don't think we should be scared about our population. And he said it all. Our population, yes, we are growing. That we are growing does not mean that we should sit back and do nothing. We have to also work hard to develop Nigeria so that even those that are outside this country can come back and invest in Nigeria. Nigeria can only be better when there is fast development, fast investors, both at home and abroad. Those outside should come home and let's begin to develop Nigeria. Our population, if we are not careful, like they've been saying, will be far bigger than India in a couple of years to come. But what do we do? That is another question. The only thing we can do is by consistent development of Nigeria.
Okay. Now, the other critical one is he hinged on critical infrastructure development through public-private partnership, roads infrastructure tax credit scheme, and he said that the private sector inflow of over 205 billion naira in 19 Nigerian roads and bridges spanning 794.4 kilometers across 11 states of the Federation.
Well, thank you very much. I think before I make any comments on the issue of infrastructure development, I want to say a word or two on the issue of the population of this great country. Yes, any government will have cause for concern where it has a population that is not seen to be fully engaged in the day-to-day governmental efforts and private sector efforts of developing the country. Ordinarily, the population is the biggest, the most valuable asset of any country, provided you are able to direct the energies of the populace. And I am very sure that the President was making reference to it in a very, very positive sense. Yes, if you have a dormant population, it is not an asset. So once we recognize the fact that we have so much to gain from a very, very active population, the government will be challenged once that population gets up, wakes up to its responsibilities, and not just depend solely on government for every need the population has. And I want to see, or I'm seeing, the march that this government is doing in the efforts of human development. The lost ground is so big, is so wide, that in the 3 years or so that this administration has had, we've not been able to cover that big, gap that the country has suffered in terms of human development indices. But there's no denying the fact government is putting so much effort in the development of, our human resources. Having said that, on the issue of infrastructure, there's no way we can develop our economy, no matter how you look at it, without ensuring that the infrastructure that is required to drive the economy are in place. You must have good network of roads. The country, we've got seashores, we've got ports to develop, we've got a lot of land to develop airports. Our roads are there to link up with our cities, with our states, and to take goods, if possible, to the seaport. We need electricity, because today, in this 21st century, you just will be a daydreamer if you plan any economic activity that will suffer because your electricity supply or system is epileptic. In the same way, you must have adequate water for human consumption and for use in your various types of industries that will drive the economy. You need to develop hospitals, you need your education to get the manpower training requirement for your economic development efforts. So these are the various types of infrastructural needs for any country to develop, to work on, to ensure that they do not have failures in the infrastructure that is required to drive the economy of the country to a given level.
Okay, away from Mr. President's speech, let's look at it holistically now. This whole journey took off on the 1st of October 1960, and it took off 1 year, 10 years, 25 years, 50 years, now 59. Along the tracks, it was like at some point, some would say we lost traction, we are gaining traction, we are doing so well, yet we are here. Holistically, what's your assessment so far from where we were to where we are, linked with the dream and concerns of our founding fathers?
Well, it's been a long journey. A long journey, yes. But I can tell you that Nigeria is better today than even 20 years back. And I know that in the next 5 years will also be better than 30 years back or even 10 years back. The journey so far has been very rough, or was very, very rough, and is getting better every day. I remember as a child, when we were kids, let me give you a practical example. I came to Lagos as a very young little girl. I was less than 9 years or thereabout when I came to Lagos many years ago. I went into Lagos, and I remember the road was very narrow, very tiny narrow. You would drive like three days on the road from Lagos to Umuahia. But look at it today. And of course, our flying zones, were they really there? Nigeria, of course, we had Nigerian Airways, but how many persons could afford to fly? So years back was very tough. But we are developing. Nigeria is developing very, very fast. Today we have vast road. Like His Excellency said earlier, we can travel from here to Sokoto. Maybe it's 8-9 hours journey, but our roads are getting better. Our flying zones are getting better also. It's easier to talk about development today in Nigeria than to talk about development years. And in the next, if you ask me really, I will tell you that our independence this year is better than 3 years ago. It's better than 5 years ago. There are more understanding of our Nigeria, more understanding of the people of this country, although it's not a smooth journey. But it can never be worse than it was. There must be improvement day in, day out. The world is growing. We're in 21st century. And before you know it, it will be another 50 years to go, 100 years to go for those that will come after us, not you and I. Because I know that you and I will not see another self.
So we want to be
I think in addition to that, the question you are posing, there is a need for us to address the attitude of Nigerians, the thinking of Nigerians in terms of what achievements we've made or what failures have been staring us in the face between 1960 and today. There's no doubt in the fact that the expectations were very, very, very high by our founding fathers, who received on our behalf or raised the Nigerian flag and lowered the Union Jack on our behalf. We took off very well. We had our teeth in problems, no doubt about that. And because democracy, simplista, was new to us as a form of government, we had to learn the ropes. And just as we're finding, our ways with it, the military, unfortunately, struck and short-circuited the march. subsequent upon the way and manner they struck, this country was plunged into a crisis of survival. We fought a civil war for about 30 months. And it wasn't easy. But we must commend the leadership at the time, General Yakubu Gowon, for the Nigerian Civil War. We didn't have to borrow. We had resources. We managed to manage resources in such a manner that we executed the Civil War without borrowing money. And immediately we started the 3 R's, the reconstruction, reconciliation, and rehabilitation. They did extremely well. I remember Chief Obafemi Awolowo was the Commissioner of Finance and Vice Chairman of the Federal Executive Council. We did the much that was required. Unfortunately, the instability in government continued. When we achieved independence, I was about 14 years old. I took part in the parade. Okay? By the time we went through all these ups and downs,
was it in Lagos or Kano or where?
I did the parade, here in Makadi.
Okay.
All right. I was then in the government secondary school, Makadi. Later in my life, I found myself working in Kaduna, and I saw the efforts that the leaders of the various times tried to make. But one thing led us to lose so much ground. The instability we went through made us not consolidate the effort over time. It's like taking one step forward and taking two steps backwards. So the perception of the First Republic leaders of the country in terms of what we need to develop, in terms of infrastructure requirement, okay, education, health, agriculture, whatever it is, it was on the table, became different from those who overthrew them and who were ruling one time or the other up till about 1999. Shagari had about 4 years between 1979 and 1983. But what was that amount over that period compared to 1966 up to about 1999? So we lost ground. At a point in time, Nigeria had the best airline, one of the best airlines in the world, one of the best airlines in the world, the whole world, one of the best, with the least accident occurrences. Safety extremely high. We had ships. The seas were, our ships, steamers were all over the place. All right, we had big, road transporters. All right, NEPA. I remember when I started working with ECN. If there's a problem in Maiduguri, I was in Kaduna. You report to our office before you say, "Ma'am, we're out there on the road to Maiduguri or to Sokoto or to Ilorin or to Bida or to Ikano or to Hadeja or to Katsina."
So what would have gone wrong?
Okay, so somehow this instability affected us. But by the time we had Niger Dam Authority, we had KNG, and then it was merged with ECN, and we had what we call NEPA. As we grew, as the demand grew,
population,
and as the indiscipline also grew with our growth, we had a situation in which people would come and put up a house. They won't get the proper authorization. They wouldn't get. They wouldn't go for proper registration. They wouldn't make available the plans for the house or for the factory they are building, and so the demand for energy, it was not properly assessed and evaluated. In the course of all this, again with the growth in population and growth in demand, the infrastructure for transmission, generation, transmission, and distribution, became a big problem. As we talk today, there are some of the lines, transmission lines, that have been there for God knows how many years. And the demand now that you have is such that these transmission lines may not be able to carry them. So you detour. We got to a point where now we don't have one single aircraft in Nigeria flying the Nigerian flag. We find out how many ships do we have today. All right. See the state of our roads. Let's be honest ourselves. Before this administration came on board, before we had the PTF, how many roads were more terrible? The roads that were on ground from the First Republic, the maintenance was impossible. They couldn't maintain them, unfortunately. All right. So if you take what is going on now, like she was saying in the beginning of this program, take the Niger Bridge. Who does not know? Who does not appreciate the essence, the critical position of that, Niger Bridge in terms of road transportation between the north and the south? All right, you can detour this. So development there has been, improvement there has been. So those who are critical of government, and it's allowed, you have a right to criticize your government as a citizen, but sometimes we are not fair with our criticism. Okay? Somebody takes a problem the country has been going through for God knows how many years, and you have a president comes in, yes, he promised, yes, we elected him, so within split second he must bring some magic in public administration, yes, and change everything. And the people who are criticizing sometimes don't feel part and parcel of the asset that this country has for delivering the goods that this country requires. So we have a lot of armchair critics, armchair politicians, armchair leaders who are extremely good in fault finding, in the blame game. And so we don't appreciate what we have. We don't appreciate what we are doing. And look, even if you have a dog in your house, if you are kind to your dog, the dog knows you are taking care of it. When you come, you see it waggling. Oh, God, don't come. Here, if from day one, a leader, a governor, a president, or chairman of a local government, if he comes on the wrong side of your mind, he's bad. And no matter what he does, he's bad. This is what the president, I think in his address, was trying to. Let us see Nigeria first. Let us know that there can be only one person at a time. You like him or you hate him or he is the one that God has ordained will rule this country for the period God has planned for him. Okay. As provided for in our constitution. It's the same thing with your chairman, your local government, the same thing with your governor. So we have to have this tolerance. Yes, some of the complaints are genuine complaints.
Let me just hold you there. Now, from the analysis he has given, clearly shows that part of the problem, the bulk of it, given the example he cited regarding power, was systemic. How can the institutions be strengthened? Because if the institutions were strengthened and they drove and regulated properly, we will not get where we are today.
The only way the institution of Nigeria can be strengthened is for you and I to do what we're supposed to do. That's why we say change begins with you and I. There is no Messiah. There is no person anywhere in the world that can come and work out magic for Nigeria and Nigerians. It's just you and I. We have to be focused in this country. Like the last statement is made here, he said that this problem of Nigeria is the fact that whoever that is there, as long as you don't like his face, he can never do good. Whether he's a local government chairman, whether he's a governor, whether he's a president. But if it's somebody you like, one of the problems I find, one of the painful aspects of my country, what that hurts me most in Nigeria, is that the moment you have a new president, we sing hallelujah. He's our Messiah. He's going to solve our problems within a twinkle of an eye. 6 months down the line, he's the worst person. How did we elect this person? How did he emerge? We are not patient. Now we say Nigeria must learn how to be very patient. Although we are, in a way we are. But when it really comes to, when you must criticize constructively and be reasonable in your critics. Be patient. Look up and see where you're coming from and see where you're going to. Don't just start running your mouth. It is not working, it is not working, it is not working. Again, something just come into my mind now. We have to learn how to pay our tax. Because if we want to have a very sound revenue, if we want to have a developing economy, we must pay our taxes. When we do so, of course, the money will be, if the money is properly channeled, and I know with Mr. President, Mr. Muhammadu Buhari, every penny will be properly channeled. And then there will be fast development. We can get it right if we begin to love one another and love our country first. Nigeria must love Nigeria. You must love Nigeria. Salim must love Nigeria. His Excellency must love Nigeria. When we love our Nigeria and allow our children to love them, to love one another, to work together, Nigeria will be a better place. And of course, you will start experiencing vast and fast infrastructures. You start to experience fast and vast investors. No person wants to go to a hostile country. No person wants to put his kobo in a hostile environment. Nigerians must be patient. I think the key word is peace and patience. If we can develop peace in our homes and develop peace for our country, then we will march forward. But as long as we lack peace and patience, we cannot develop Nigeria. We will continue to live in war within the home and in war outside the home. There are a lot of potentialities in Nigeria. Of course, Nigerians are very kind persons. Nigerians are very good. We have good memory. We can think. We can reason. We can develop. We can manufacture so many things. Our youth are beginning to manufacture a lot of things, although some youth in Africa and South Africa have manufactured planes. But I believe that Nigerian youth can also do far, far better. But we need a very enabling environment. We need peace in the society. We need love in the society. We need patience. We need our parents. The parents, the elderly ones, those that are above 60 years, to live together and live in harmony. And of course, the younger ones to begin to understand themselves and to show love to one another.
If you're just joining us, the focus on Tuesday Live tonight is Nigeria at 59, the journey so far. Now, somewhere I listened to some Nigerians say at 59, Nigeria is on the threshold of next level. And incidentally, this is the mantra of the present administration. 59, almost moving to 60. Some of the thematic areas Mr. President raised or reeled out to Nigerians in his nationwide broadcast speaks to the fact that no matter how much you develop and you remain a consuming economy and you don't tinker towards a productive economy, that development, given the fact that we have global competitiveness which has been subsumed to multilateralism. Now, if we develop and the productive sector is lame, will we get anywhere?
I think we must get the concept of next level properly. The notion is simply saying wherever we believe, aggregate terms, that we are as a country, our collective effort driven by this leadership driven by the dream that we have, is to lift us to a higher level. Maybe if you like, instead of using next, you can use higher, the higher level, so that the expectations that we have, would be better realized. Yes, it is pathetic that given the resources that nature has endowed us, that God has endowed us with virtually anything you want to do, God has blessed this country to have what it takes to get that thing done. If it is food, go around the whole world and see and come and say, which country, how many countries do you know? For the countries that are charted, that are on the table, that we know, members of the United Nations, how many of them have got better environment, better blessings of nature than Nigeria? How many of them? I'm not saying we are number one. How many are they? What have we been able to achieve with the lot that Almighty God has given us? If you are privileged to have any expatriate that is bubbling for investment, and you drive with him from one state to another, he will say to you, what the hell? What's happening that we still have what we call poor people? Why? Why are we not able to convert these resources to meet the needs of our country? Why can we not add value to whatever it is we produce, either that is industrial produce or food produce, that we cannot add any value at all to it? You take cassava, for instance, in agriculture. Take cassava. You have 1 hectare, or the peasant farmer maybe half a hectare of cassava. Year in, year out, he plants the cassava. 9 months, 10 months, 1 year into planting, he harvests the cassava with his son, with his daughter, with his wife, and probably some in-laws coming to help. And straight from the ground goes to the market. Okay? Nigeria is the country with the highest level of cassava production, quantity-wise. But if you take the indices of countries that are adding value to cassava, processing cassava, okay, you find we are somewhere about 30-something in the list. Why is it so? Yam, cashew nuts, sesame seed, whatever it is, palm kernel. Okay? Why have we stayed so long at this level? So the essence, the message of the next level is we can add value. We can add value to these things that God gave us. We have the people, we have the population. If this population is harnessed and we produce this raw material, see how we add value to them. And if we so do, it takes us to the next level.
Okay. We told you at the beginning of the program that at some point we'll be going to the Kaduna Network Center and also to our Lagos Network Center. As soon as the guests are set, we'll come to them. Now, quickly, at 59, one of the concerns have been the issue of accelerated, sustainable, and inclusive economic growth, which was a focal talkhead in Mr. President's broadcast. At 59, if we tailor towards this, where will we be in the next 2 years?
But we are saying the same thing,
okay,
in different words. We're still talking of the next level. You see, you have a population. The first duty of any government, any country, is to see you have a good or fair, accurate number of your population. That you have a plan that you are producing enough food to feed that population. and you are producing enough materials, cotton or whatever, textile, whatever, to clothe them. You are producing enough steel or whatever it takes to have vehicles, motorcycles, cars, train or whatever. Okay? Now, unless and until we can do that, you cannot talk of having come of age economically.
I think when you talk about acceleration, I believe that in the next 2 years, with what Mr. President said today, this morning, and the way he has given marching order to his ministers across, and the way National Assembly too, with our distinguished senators seated there, the way the Senate President has said they are going to work assiduously to move the budget, everything forward, I believe that the next 2 years will be far better than years past. The next 2 years will be far better than our 4 years past. I'm convinced about it. Because I think Mr. President has also said that Nigerians he can feel the pains. A lot of people say, oh, is he really understanding what we are going through? All of us are going through one pain or the other. But he said it in clear terms, that he understands that there's so much hardship, Nigerians are going through pain. But you see, whether we like it or not, when a child is trying to walk, a child will fall down several times. We are coming from dungeon. But I believe and I'm convinced, beyond all reasonable doubt, that the next 2 years, Nigerians will smile. A year and a half from now, Nigerians will begin to smile because there is going to be a very fast infrastructure development. And of course, there will be are you not developing yourself? I'm developing myself. That is why I'm here. This is part of human development. That's why we're here now discussing Nigeria of tomorrow. We're not discussing Nigeria of years. We're discussing Nigeria of tomorrow and telling Nigerians to be very patient, that things will certainly be better. Nigerians will be better. I'm convinced.
Okay. Being a special episode, we're looking at Nigeria at 59, the journey so far. We didn't do a Vox Pop today, but we got reports across the country, and the first batch of these reports will be coming from Kaduna, Nasarawa, Sokoto, and Maiduguri, Borno State. Let's take a listen to those reports.
Arise, O compatriots.
I pledge to Nigeria, my country, to be faithful, loyal, and honest.
The Nigerian national anthem and pledge, deliberately coined to promote the spirit of patriotism, national cohesion, and integration after the evolution of Nigeria from colonial experience, civil war, coups and counter-coups, among other challenges that threatened her unity as an entity.
From 1960 to date, we can say that Nigeria has so far recorded, tremendous achievements, both in the area of social, political, and economic development.
A lack of continuity and the will from the leaders to see that we have incorruptible system of administration. They are still with us.
With Nigeria's ability to sustain her unity in diversity, develop critical infrastructure, education, and build a strong economy that places the country #1 in Africa and key player in global affairs, stakeholders say the celebration of 59 years of nationhood is not only worthy, but a sacred duty upon all citizens.
You are traveling from here to, say, Kwantagora or going to Ilorin. There's nothing like a third road. It's narrow gauge, lane. On a bridge, if a vehicle is coming, one has to stop. The other one to pass before. But today you have wide, and even we can have what we call double carriageways today.
If you look at the northern Nigeria, there are a lot of schools that were developed. And you can look at it in such a way that we have so many people who are now educated, not only in the northern Nigeria, but in the entire country, unlike before independence.
It is the belief of stakeholders that with cooperation, self-determination, and patriotism by Nigerians, the country will work stronger in all facets of national life.
At 59, stakeholders say it is a journey of checkered history with milestones, prospects and challenges. They said Nigerians should continue on the path of unity and harmonious coexistence as greatest pillar of survival as a nation.
So if you take all these as elements to measure progress of a country, it is dishonest, it is unpatriotic for anyone to say there has been no progress. There has been progress.
We have had our challenges, political, economic, and otherwise. However, with the coming of this administration and with the vision of Mr. President, after the first 4 years, one can clearly see that Nigeria is on a path to attaining excellence.
Since democracy is being revived, that is giving us that confidence.
Our leaders, past and present, have done very well and are still doing well.
In spite of all our shortcomings, I think Nigeria has come a long way with a lot of developmental strides.
On the economic and political fronts, Nigeria and its leaders, the stakeholders say, should remain focused and never compromise those ideals on the road to prosperity and well-being of the people.
This is a glimpse of Sokoto State after more than 50 years of Nigeria's independence. A combined efforts of 3 tiers of government have continued to drive growth and development in the state. Notable is in the mainstay of the state, agriculture. The sector has recorded tremendous improvement over the years, with the most recent effort at the federal and state levels aimed at boosting food security.
In giving them soft loan and this federal CBN Anchor Bros program, in which we have key in here in Sokoto, the people has gone back to the farm because of the commitment and the political will of the government.
Improvement in infrastructure, as well as investment in human capital development, education and healthcare, amongst other sectors, have continued to grow.
When you look at the policies of the federal government, over the years, the social investment program and also the youth empowerment program, all these are geared towards steps towards solving the problem of unemployment.
We have made giant stride and significant progress in terms of installing democracy and consolidating it for a long period of time.
At 59, the sentiment here is that the country be repositioned to drive inclusive and sustainable development, as well as overcome her challenges.
The giant of Africa, giant under the sun, Big Brother Africa, fascinating Nigeria. These are some of the accolades the country enjoys due to the wonders and amazement the outside world sees of its status and potentials as the most populous black nation, secular and endowed with various ethnic and tribal groups under one umbrella.
There was democracy. Tafawa Balewa, for example, was the prime minister. We have Chiba Olo in the west. We have Azikwe from the east and Amadou Bello from the north. But they all interacted cordially.
Since independence, from lessons learned, Nigeria has moved from grace to grace in all spheres of human endeavor, despite challenges in the nation's quest for growth and development.
Before the independence, there was only one university in the whole of the country. That is the University of Ibadan. Every state has a federal university and state universities.
Achieve political stability. 2, we have now sustainable democracy. Thirdly, people now respect the rule of law from the highest to the lowest. Our judicial system has effectively taken ground.
Until when we have a resolute and a focused, all-inclusive leadership that will bring the people together to have a single united cohesion. alongside the southern part of the country, to stand for ourselves, to create a sort of political culture that was established in the 1960s.
Having overcome challenges on the path to its present status, with democratic governance and leading global champion, Nigeria's direction is believed by many to be on course to a greater nation.
Those are reactions from Nigerians from Kaduna, Nasarawa, Sokoto, and Borno State. And I hear our Kaduna Network Center is open, and our guest there, Dr. Ali Adamu, is on set. If he's right there, hello, Dr. Adamu. Dr. Adamu is the International Development Consultant. Good to have you on Tuesday Live tonight, and happy 59th Independence Anniversary.
Thank you very much indeed, and happy 59th anniversary either.
The old national said, Nigeria, we hail thee, our own dear native land. Though tribe and tongue may differ, in brother will we stand. Nigerians all are proud to serve as sovereign motherland. The current national anthem talked about arise, O compatriot, Nigeria call obey, to serve our fatherland with love, strength, and faith, blah, blah, blah. Do you think when Nigerians recite the national anthem compared to what we get from other nations, they speak to it and rely on it? And what should be done?
When you look at all these, our venerable slogans and national anthems are excellent, and we should uphold their tenets. One could only say that at this point, when we set out to discuss the journey so far, 59 years to date, you could objectively say that Nigeria has been drenched in both poignancy and joy, and our reflections and critique of the Nigerian state are merely a linear extrapolation of our past failings and strength to a propitious future, a counter-utopia, hopefully, rather than an El Dorado. We do hope that one day Nigeria will be catapulted by the strength of her effort and by the benevolence of Providence, by our will to perform better than we have so far, because the 20th century is a demonstrative venue, or rather crucible, for the self-proof of nations, whether a nation is out to develop on her own. No more the age of aid, the age of leaning on international big brothers has long gone past. Having said that, you could say that 20th, and if we set out to develop properly, it's just like driving a motor car on a highway. You've got to have the highway code. You've got to master the driving instruments, the steering wheel, the brake, and all other necessary ensemble of the car driving. Similarly, if as a polity you want to develop, then you must learn the ropes. You must distinguish the developments of one country from another and see which one will be best for you. 20th century national development all over the world has multifarious parallax. There is the socialist paradigm of various categories, the most prominent of which, of course, was that of the Soviet Union and Maoist China. And here the economy was dirigist, completely state-run, in other words. There also is the entrepreneurial purchase, capitalism, in other words. This also falls into two broad categories. First, there is the neoliberal model, which is advocated by the Washington Consensus as well as by my erstwhile friend, the late Milton Friedman, and several others. The neoliberal precept, of course, emphasizes private enterprises. And within the neoliberal, of course, you do find the developmental state. And the developmental state has been ubiquitous in Southeast Asia, has been, evident in Southeast Asia, that's to say. The developmental state is a melange of both state intervention as well as entrepreneurial or private sector involvement. So you find that, and this has been championed by Japan and the Asian Tigers. The Japanese, of course, started this, where the state intervenes very, very properly, and the state encourages private entrepreneurs to continue. The Japanese started in the year 1861. At the same time as the United States, of course, they all borrowed from Europe, from the United Kingdom. Just as Germany started in 1870 and France 1860. State participation, private sector participation. If you draw the demarcation and nuances and assign each sector her own responsibilities, then definitely you will get a very healthy melange of economic development. You can't say that deviating from this, development could come apace. If you take the case of the Asian Tigers, you find that a typical example of state and private sector symbiosis, joint participation, that during the 1970s and 80s, the Korean government established what it called ETRA, the Electronics and Telecommunication Research Institute, and that set out to help the Korean chaebol, the Korean big business, the Korean private sector establishments that started as bicycle assembly plants initially, but because they were encouraged at a later time, they metamorphosed into Lucky Gold Star, Samsung, Daewoo, Hyundai. And today, as I'm talking to you now, they account for more than half the GDP of South Korea. So it's the state provides the enabling apparatus, the enabling environment for the private sector to function. It's not to say that the state engages in dirigism, engages in taking over the economy, like I guess was the mistake in Nigeria before, when NITEL was run by government, and NITEL was a total dystopia, as you well know. So, but government does provide the requisite infrastructure as well as a legal framework for business to operate. So, having said that, you could say that Nigeria's industrial development really first began with the first stage of import substitution industrialization in 1949. That was when several companies were established. Kano Citizens Trading Company, Kaduna Textiles, and several other, textiles and light consumer good industries for the production of shoes, textile goods, for the production of just light materials. And these production processes were really labor intensive, not capital intensive as such. The first stage of industrial development is the import substitution industrialization, and we began it. And then always when this begins, because that's how it began all over the world. That's how it began in England. That's how it began. The Industrial Revolution itself began, of course, as you well know, in England in the 1840s. And now, at a later time, then other countries too captured it that way. Now, the second stage of import substitution entails the transmission into the production of intermediate and heavier goods like refrigerators, motor cars even, and then gradually you become, this second stage really leads into export-led growth, export-led economy, as is the case with China. A typical example, of course, is that China's industrialization began around 1976.
Ali Adamu from our Kaduna Network Center, from the significance of the national anthem, he has gone into the issue of the private sector participation, and he went on to give us a good dossier comparing Africa, Asia, North Korea, and East. But we'll come back to Kaduna Network Center, but let's sustain what I asked Dr. Adamu differently. When you see people recite the national anthem, I took off from the old one to today. In some nations, they say it and you see passion, you see emotion. And if you do that, 15 years after, it could lead us somewhere.
Well, you see, ordinarily, the national anthem of any country gives the spirit of the country, the spirit of the people of the country. They are relating with the country. They are relating with the life of the country. They are relating with the expectations for the country. Okay? And people grow to imbibe love of their anthem. And when the anthem is being sung, you don't see yourself as a Yoruba man or an Ibibio man or a Hausa man or a Fulani man or a Tib man or whatever. You see yourself first and foremost as a Nigerian. And that's the way we grew to understand what national anthems have been. But over time, too much book has gone into this whole thing. And if you sing the national anthem today and you beam different stations or different spots across the country, you will see people in different parts of the country reacting differently, responding differently to the national anthem. You know, there are some who will put their hand on the chest, right hand on the left side of their chest. There are some who will stand at attention. There are some who will just be like, you know, there's no standard, unfortunately. And sometimes it's as bad as when a guy does not feel good, does not feel well, does not think well of the country when the national anthem is being sung. He doesn't respond to it at all. It's as bad as that in some parts of this country.
So, but do you think if it is brought into the school curriculum?
But I believe very strongly, like the first national anthem, there was no way you could have gone through up to university level, from primary school to university, and you can't sing your national anthem. How many times have we got people being interviewed for a job, or who come for screening, National Assembly, recite your national anthem or national pledge? Abbas, you don't know.
Okay.
All right.
I think like
so with that sort of work we need to do.
Yeah, maybe in school curriculum it might help us, and I think we should sing our national anthem with respect.
Exactly.
We are not singing our national anthem with respect. I personally would want to hold my chest to honor my national anthem. I believe in it, but unfortunately, most of us don't know it. I remember sometime, I think last year, last 2 years, a lady was being interviewed, or some people were being interviewed, and Ambassador Disnet. She couldn't recite national anthem. But anyway, that's national anthem. There are more other important issues we need to trash. And
but the focus once again is Nigeria at 59, the journey so far. The program is Tuesday Live. We'll continue the program shortly. Don't go away.
Nigerians, our fearless officers and men of the Nigerian military are winning the war against Boko Haram. Today, all occupied territories have been recovered and Boko Haram has been degraded. Our affected brothers and sisters are getting their lives back. However, they are now after you and me. In our mosques, churches, schools, motor parks, markets, entertainment centers, and public gatherings. Be vigilant. Be security conscious. Report suspicious persons, objects, and movements to the police and other security agencies. The security of our nation is a duty for you and me. Nigeria unite against terrorism.
This message is brought to you by the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
The struggle for independence had been a long and tough one. Our founding fathers and compatriots sacrificed their comfort and even shed their blood. We cannot at this point in history afford to spirit away their sacrifices for immediate but temporary gains of today. Let us emphasize what unites and not what divides us. Working for the unity of purpose with a stronger vision for a better tomorrow. NTA, growing with the nation.
Nigeria, the only country we can train with remarkable potentials to excel. Let us believe in ourselves and change our attitude for the sake of our country and generations unborn. Let us revive our cultural values, which are our essence as a nation. Let us renew the spirit of patriotism and hope in our dear country. Do not take or give bribe. Be punctual always. No more African time. We can't expect to be global citizens and operate on African time. Join the queue. Insist that people are attended to on a first-come basis, no matter who they are or where they come from.
Nigeria, good people, great nation.
Make you report any crooked person, object or wakajugbe movement to police and security agent demo.
The security of our nation now work for all of us, plus including me and you.
Nigeria, make we unite against terrorism. Now, Federal Minister of Information and Culture bring on this message.
NTA Tuesday Live, a network issue-oriented innovation talk show.
Thanks for staying tuned. The focus once again on Tuesday Live tonight is Nigeria at 59. We're joining so far. And today, when the lines are true for the Talk Back challenge we have tonight, introduce yourself and where you're calling from and raise your concerns, put your questions across, because I might not be able to know where you're calling from. That's the observation of today. Now I'm going to Kaduna and back to Dr. Ali Adamu. Mr. President talked about a close for exceptional revenue generation. Anti-corruption revenue generation 59 years after. What's your take?
What led to the oil boom eventually? But the contradiction in terms set in where you find that the same agriculture was neglected in the wake of the oil boom. We preferred imports. Even food was imported. So when Mr. President talks about revenue generation, definitely it shows them that he wants to work. But then work cannot take place without money. But then his statement reminds me not just of it's being right, but it also reminds me of one puzzlement actually. What led to our abandonment of radio, television, bicycle licenses, fees, because these license fees form part of the revenue, kind of convenient taxation, which was not difficult for people to pay. But the oil boom came in, and the oil boom transmuted into costs veritably, in the sense that our other sources of revenue generation were abandoned, and we concentrated on oil export. Now, this denied our indigenous factories, the first stage industrialization, the import substitution factories were denied the requisite raw materials. You used to have a lot of cotton from the Puntua area and a lot of beni seeds from the Middle Belt, a lot of coal from Enugu, a lot of, rubber from Midwestern Nigeria, around Bendel and, You used to have a lot of this before, and they sustained our industry. When you saw the way Odutola, Tires, and others used rubber from the Benin area, you recall with nostalgia and poignantly too that such does not exist. If factories had functioned, they would have been able to pay tax, to pay workers, and workers would in turn pay tax in the form of pay as you earn. So once you strengthen factory production, once you strengthen private sector employment, then taxation would have a firm basis. Right now, you hear people complaining about unemployment and so on and so forth, but then you also are finding another contradiction. Nigeria graduated from having just one university to over 100 today. We have so many universities. I'm not too sure if it's over 100, but I know at least that we have just so many universities, so many colleges of education, and so we have resulted. This development, good as it is, has unintentionally resulted in a paradox. The paradox of the country being top-heavy with manpower, with superstructure, but then with a very narrow economic base. Industries are not there. But then we are churning out graduates every year, unfailingly. It has become almost a kind of competition between sub-entities within the country to establish their own universities, to establish their own colleges of education, and so on and so forth. There's nothing wrong with that, so long as you do have the requisite platform to absorb the accruing manpower. The multitude of graduates now that are hanging unemployed ineluctably become greased to the mill of terrorism. And terrorism, once superintended by an educated person, is a lot more difficult to contain. You already know that some of the terror confrontation, some of the especially in the northeast, you find that some of the terrorists, the way they operate within Boko Haram, are not completely ignorant. They are all, you could say they are brutal, but they are not ignorant. They do have people educated with them. They do have their own. They did at least have their own electricity before Sambisa was captured. Before Sambisa was destroyed, electricity. They had their own mechanic workshops. They had their own designers, even solar power, and with some quasi-engineers managing them for them. If you have so many graduates and no means of employment, definitely they are likely to be transmuted unintentionally into terrorists. Now, so apart from, once we continue developing the educational sector to produce more manpower, please let us also not abandon the primacy of industrial development. Now, what led to the decline of what really inhibited us from coming into the second stage of production was that when about 12 automobile assembly plants began operating in Nigeria in the early 1970s, there was another momentous development, which was a paradox: the oil boom. The oil boom came, and then suddenly our agriculture stopped, our alternative activities stopped. And once the oil boom came and there was a stoppage on that, tax collection itself, the authorities became lethargic in tax collection, as is the case now. And so when people when people are not enlightened about the primacy of taxation, then there's a problem. So Mr. President's statement is useful in another way. Once taxation is institutionalized in a country, the institution of taxation itself gives people the requisite strength to have a say in government. if government decides to waste money coming from oil, some people have never seen crude oil in their life, but once I know that I pay something like, say, 300 or 3,000 naira or 30,000 naira a year, for example, I pay that to my local government council, or I pay that to the federal government, then I'll be keen to know, I and my other compatriots will be keen to know, what is government, what are the authorities doing with my money? But when you say now, when you now say theoretically that our money, you and who? Because many people don't even know what oil money looks like. They don't know what crude oil looks like. People hear about, petrodollars. Many have never seen dollars. But once I collect money from you in the name of tax, then definitely you will hold me accountable for development. Hold me accountable. And this also leads me to say that now that local governments are going to have fiscal independence, this is a very good development, because all over the world that is the case. Local governments have their own independence. But then we must not forget one thing. Local governments must be keenly supervised. A powerful searchlight, constant audit must be placed on local government. Otherwise, we are going to have problem. We must establish enough standards for local governments to attain, so that they get their money, they submit budgets, the budgets are debated and stuff, just the way it's done at the federal level, at the state level. Local government level must be the same. But then constant audit is extraordinarily important, and there's nothing wrong with that. Therefore, taxation.
Well, Dr. Ali Adamu from Kaduna Network Center there. Back in Abuja, let me stay on with Senator Adamu. You have been very visible since 1999. In terms of governance, you have been very visible since the return of democracy in Nigeria.
Yes.
We have never had it so good. It returned back and it was like a joke, but we have made 20 years and still counting. 59 years on, democratic ideals. Where are we with it?
Oh, well, we thank God Almighty for making it possible for us. Since the 1999 election and handing over to a politically elected government, we have been trading on. And I believe very strongly that democracy is developing, and challenges are being confronted by various tiers of government, because democratic elections have permeated from the national elections, state elections, to local government elections. And people, various leaders at various levels of governance have set themselves targets, and a number of these leaders have been able to attain, the targets they set for themselves. And that brings me to the issue of where we are again as a country, what this administration is doing to give us a realignment on our development efforts, to instill what has been missing over time in our endeavors. Discipline has gone off the mark, and some of the hiccups that the system of governance is going through, security and what have you, is all part of our losing focus was discipline. When you don't have a disciplined population, there's no way things will go the way the government has planned it, because the supposition is that every citizen, every adult is able to queue, on the programs that government is bringing forth. And then those who are not able to find themselves in institutions of government can flourish in the private sector. Whether you're in the private sector or in the public, you need discipline. Discipline has not been our lot for quite some time. And oftentimes, if we fail or we have difficulty approaching governance in a particular pattern, given the enabling environment and enabling legal framework, we tend to give up easily and change course. For instance, if you take the issue of discipline, issue of security, the issue of kidnapping, the issue of cattle rationing, the issue of banditry generally, a part of it is indiscipline, whether we like it or not. And then the fact that among the things we did in governance over this time between 1999 now, is the fact that we've taken the carpet, we pulled the carpet under the feet of our traditional institutions. We have underestimated what our traditional institutions can do to play a part in the stability of the country, of our society, and therefore governance. And the kind of problems that a traditional ruler in any part of Nigeria can handle, because they don't have a role at all to play in the Constitution. Today, as we operate it, a lot of things are happening that ordinarily there will be check. And these are the institutions that we are using to check at those levels of governance. Now they are not there. Okay. And so if there's any area that we have not measured up to my own expectation, is the fact that we've taken away from our traditional institutions, a role in governance. We only see them as royal fathers.
Can it be restored?
Of course it can be restored.
Okay,
it can be restored.
Let me check on Dr. Chinedu. Women participation and democratic ideals in Nigeria.
Well, Nigerian women are up to every task in governance, in politics. I think although what I normally say, I'm very blunt about it, Nigerian women need to begin to love themselves, love each other, and help one another. It's oftentimes said that we have more women in Nigeria, if not globally, than we even have men. But an average Nigerian woman is not ready to support her fellow woman. And they turn around and say, it's men. I know there is only one key point. That key point is this: money. The senator here, they have too much money. Women don't have at all.
But are you satisfied with the space given to them so far?
How can I be satisfied? It's the area that I want to even beg my president now. You promised us 35% too, but now you didn't even give us 10%. There is still opportunity. I make bold to say that.
The point I'm making is taking a comparative analysis from where we were to where we are today.
No, today is not good as a few years back. Let's be honest about it. Today is not so sweet. At least it's difficult for a woman. There are very few women in Nigeria that can win an election outrightly. And the only way that you can bring women to governance in Nigeria is compensating them with appointment. That I'm pleading with Mr. President to still do. The ministerial position is slots are gone, but the other slots coming up. I've defended that 1,000 times. My president, look, there are other slots coming up. Compensate Nigeria, because we worked. And I know how much I suffered. I didn't contest for election, but I spent my time, I spent all I had, campaigning for my president and my governorship candidate, Dr. Uchoga, Samson Uchoga, and I'm glad that he's somewhere today. But I want to encourage Nigerian women. I didn't say Nigerian women. Nigerian women. We have a long way to go. we must come together. There are a couple of bodies here and there trying to champion the affairs of women in politics, but they need to loosen up. They have to be open so that they can embrace other women. Let us stop saying what we say. That is our that is our issue, that is our problem. Nigerian women, we are my problem. My sister is my problem. Let Nigerian women start thinking something new that can help we women in politics. It's a prayer. And I say from the heart of my heart. And I also pray that the men will give us a breathing space. I'm not saying that there should be a law that must say there must be 20%, or rather there must be 100%, or rather the woman must be here. No.
But
if I merit it,
been taking over time to encourage women within the dispensation, like getting off
the affirmative action, for instance.
Yes.
No, it's not followed. Excuse me, distinguish. It's not followed. Let us be honest about it. Those steps taken are not followed. If those steps taken are followed, things will not. Okay, an example. Maybe the whip in the red carpet, red chamber, will have been a woman. Yes, she would have been a woman.
Okay, we'll continue the discussion. Let's take this line of other reports. We told you we'll take some reports, and these ones are coming from Ibadan, Oyo State, Benin, Edo State, and Uyo in Akwa Ibom State.
October 1, 1960 is a day all Nigerians will continue to remember for gaining freedom from its British colonial masters. After independence, the country became a republic in 1963. Since independence, there has been intrusion by the military through coup, which prominent Nigerians identified as a setback to the progress of the country. They are, however, of the opinion that despite the challenges, the country has been able to achieve a lot of development in areas such as education, telecommunication, and infrastructure.
Because we got what other countries got through bloodshed without fighting. There was no Mau, there was no uprising. The best we had were powerful editorials, powerful rallies, powerful speeches, and we got our independence.
The countries that started with us at the same time, they've gone far, far, far ahead of us for so many reasons. There are the issues of politicizing everything, ethnicizing everything, religionizing everything. These are the three basic things that are wrong with us in this country that have not permitted us to move as fast as we ought to.
To be honest, despite the stress and the depression of maybe today's demands on work life, we cannot say that Nigeria has not succeeded. We cannot say that Nigeria has not done good, because everywhere in the world there is a successful Nigerian.
For government to be able to do more in the development of the country, they urge citizens to support the programs and policies of the government.
Appraising the state of affairs of the country 59 years after independence, Professor Emmanuel Emovo noted that Nigeria would have gone beyond this level of development had she adhered to the path which the forebears set for her. The elder statesman who laments the ethnic conflicts in the country and the devolution of the country into 36 federating units sues for the abolition of the federal character system to enhance development of the country.
All this issue of tribal sentiments have sort of put a wedge on the progress of Nigeria. The federal character was brought in, and that again fragmented the whole country.
Another elder statesman and former chairman of the Police Service Commission, Pare Osayende, also lent credence to some of the views expressed by Professor Emmanuel Emovo, but disagrees with the professor on the breaking down of the country into 36 states, as he says it is healthy for the development of the local government areas and the country at large.
Everything is politicized. That is not it. That is not what other people are doing in other countries. There are some other African countries who went through hell They are far ahead of us. But when we had independence, we were far ahead of Brazil. If the police is well funded, you don't create other police agencies to come and have a bite of the fund, scarce resources, and you leave it and develop the police well, then you don't need any state police.
Nigeria gained independence from the British colonialists in October 1st, 1960.
We are still in one Nigeria. I'm very happy. We are in one Nigeria. Congratulations for this year's celebration. And I believe Nigeria would learn a lesson.
We need to change our circumstances completely and totally and get ourselves into a new mindset, complete new mindset that says, I come from Nigeria, I'm a proud Nigerian, and I'm determined to make Nigeria great.
We have witnessed a tremendous improvement in Nigeria, a lot of development, and we want to say Nigeria is matured enough at the age of 59.
Any country that moves forward, we should be happy. Nigeria is moving forward, and we're hoping for it to move at a faster pace than what it is today. With what is happening now and the turn up of things now, I would say we are gradually progressing. We are progressing, we are moving on, and with time, I believe we shall get there.
That was a reaction by Nigerians across the divide, and this time around went to Benin, Edo State, Ibadan, Oyo State, and Uyo in Akwa Ibom State. Now, moving on to the program, the people, the government, trust. Moving on.
Trust. Well, trust is a very, very important ingredient. Any government, whether it is voted democratically or not, when you talk of a leadership of a country, you talk of a constituted authority of a country, the citizenry should be able to invest their trust in their government. And so the government has a duty to continuously work towards getting that trust. The thing about trust is it is not just given. You earn a person's trust. So government must strive to earn the trust of its citizenry.
Yeah.
The problem is the ordinary Nigerian is trusting. He has a starting point with his government. Once the government is elected, the ordinary Nigerian has a way of saying, well, that's what God has given us. We accept it. But you and me, the so-called elite, the so-called educated people, the so-called regional leaders, okay, we poison, unfortunately, the minds of our Nigerians. And because we've been brought up through tradition to respect our elders, to respect our leaders, when a leader speaks, the guy who is growing in the village, he sees somebody from his part of the world saying something bad against his government, calling the president by his name, and using the kind of language that is not becoming of a citizen towards his leader. What do you expect the young man at the corner of his village to think? He respects the local person is condemning his president. He's condemning his leader. So we are not showing good example. We are not imbibing that value, that attribute of discipline, respect for the elder, respect for your sovereign. And the president of any country, depending on the system of government they're operating, whether they're president or prime minister, the sovereignty of the country rests there. Okay. You are elected. If you're an elected person, I say because you're elected, you want to throw your weight around. You don't want to be respectful. You disagree with your president because you come from a different political party, or because you come from a party, even the same party, but something has gone wrong with your interests vis-a-vis the direction things are going, and you now pitch your tent against you. Those who are less privileged than you will see that you are not showing them, giving example. And so confidence begets confidence. Trust begets trust. So we must, as a unit, as a team, try to imbibe, try to instill those attributes that will make the citizenry trust his leader. What did he say? I'm going to do A, like my colleague on this program is saying a while ago, doctor. He said, okay, the first thing that struck her from the president's speech is the Niger Bridge. And behold, there is somebody in that part of the country that for all of his life, for all he cares, President Muhammadu Buhari has brought Niger Bridge. During his time, all the promises, nobody kept it. During his time, he did it. That somewhere is enough to make him feel, I trust this guy. Because he said something and he's doing it. He has delivered. And you can detour other interests and aggregate them. And once a leader identifies himself with the interest that he would like, this administration is doing, like President Muhammadu Buhari is doing, you know that we're going somewhere. I see all the interviews we're watching in this program from the different parts of the country. People are talking about moving forward, moving forward, moving forward.
Country forward.
And that moving forward is to take us to the next level.
Okay. Now, let's look at, charity begins at family values. Some people feel that part of the problem also has been the erosion of family values. Before now, a child before beginning primary school or kindergarten gets some values at home. All that appears eroded. How can we build it back?
It's tough.
It affects our national life.
Yeah, it affects. It's tough. Unfortunately, even a child of 5-7 years these days live on the social media. A very little child, your mother, your father is giving you a handset, and possibly that handset you're watching your 247 on WhatsApp, your 247 on Facebook, and you're watching all sorts of trash. It's still within the mother, still within the father. You know, when we were kids, when we were younger, I was 3 months when my father died. I don't know my father. My mother brought me up. But I was also told that those years back, women are more at home looking after. They were what the Bible described as helpmates. They were really helpmates to their husbands. But these days, what has befallen us is that every woman is a working class woman. You're into politics, you're into home, you're into this, you're into that. But if you have a culture as a woman, I make bold to say that I have a culture. My husband does not eat out, except we decide to go out for a dinner. I eat at home and I cook. 99% of people that know me do not believe that I cook. I cook even in this your NTA, my traditional soup, from my kitchen, okaza, achara, egusi. It's unfortunate that this generation, I describe them as perverse generation.
How can it be corrected?
It can only be corrected if you want to correct it. A woman, you can build your home if you want to build your home. And a husband, you support your wife. You just have to create time. It's time. Unfortunately,
I think in support of what Doctor is saying, yes, often we blame the leadership at the national level. I don't like saying it, but often I can't help thinking. There is this old adage that every people you know in this world get the leadership they deserve. No country has a leader that they pluck from the heavens above.
At all. You build your home.
Okay? And if you don't give the citizenry the right orientation, there's a training that a government is duty bound to provide through school, the institutions of education and what have you. But like she was saying, the real training, the best friend of any child is from home. Is from home. It's his mother.
His mother
first,
father.
And the father. And until we go back, because in the pretext of being educated, being modern, we've done away with our culture. We've done away with our social value systems deliberately in the name of a Western education. Okay? How many mothers care?
Our children are left in the hands of
they go to
nannies.
private school. Okay. Yeah, if you write, well, you know what.
Come back to that. We are almost at the tail end of the program.
So unless you start imbibing the right attitude to the child, because the family is the smallest unit of administration, and it is from the family you grow to your village, your ward, your neighborhood, your whatever, right through to the national level. Unless you have it right there, that's a limit. How do you want President Buhari or any reigning president, any time in Nigeria's development, to have a direct impact on a boy,
in a home? It's not what any president can do.
If he's president for 101 years, he will never
come to your home and develop your home or build up your home.
So the family has a duty to align with the national ethos, and to do so, it must start with the home. It must start with who you are, what the family is, what's your relation with your father, what's your relation with the mother, your uncle, your cousin, that kind of stuff, and then the leadership in your community, and you start relating with your local government, a ward or local government, and you have to do that. There's no other way.
Okay. Let's go to Kaduna and to get the concluding thoughts of Dr. Adamu from Kaduna. Dr. Adamu, as we conclude on this program, Nigeria has clocked 59 as an independence country. Moving on, what are your concluding thoughts?
Give me time.
Well, you see, I must say that the most important thing for us now is to support our politicians, government that is to say, to help us carry the country forward. And the country cannot be carried forward unless its economy is predicated on life. The economy cannot continue to be left, to be left untethered to modern precepts. But economic development cannot take place without A, insurance, B, good moral upbringing of our children, as I was saying, good communication system. Insurance in Nigeria is not as effective as it used to be. And without insurance, no business in any part of the world blossoms at all. But in Nigeria, insurance has declined. Insurance does have advertisements that are platitudinous, largely, and mendacious. But, they better be told to the Marines. Insurance does not earn my praise in this country. The other problem, again, we have is that we have developed, in terms of communication, the mobile telephony is excellent. It's a very good replacement of landlines and stuff. But then there are multifarious problems with that. Sometimes when the senator and the lawyer, my colleagues in this discussion, we're discussing children, good child upbringing and stuff. Now, one of the problems we are facing in this country is being bred by the mobile service providers. Beginning from 1 o'clock in the morning to 7 a.m., calls are free. And our teenagers and teen and 20s don't go to sleep. You find millions of them in communication because they've got now a free phone calls. Why shouldn't the phone calls be, if it's intended to be a kind of benevolence, why shouldn't the service providers subsidize, rather make these offers to people in the afternoon rather than to innocent children that require enough sleep after all. So the other problem again is that they charge too much for data. I do praise the new Minister of Communication, Dr. Pantami, who seems to be out now to tackle some of the problems associated with mobile telephony in this country. Their charges for data is outrageous. Not only that, when they keep charging, their charges for data are time-based rather than usage-based. Whether the data transmission is good or bad, they just go by the minutes you spend. Whether it works or not, they charge you all the same. I hope this will change. The other thing is that Nigerians should applaud Muhammadu Buhari for reinvigorating the Mambila hydropower scheme. No country's economy functions in history and now without electricity. And we do trust that the Mambila hydropower project will really revive all our industries and help the emergence of new ones. With electricity, definitely businesses will blossom, and taxation and all other things, all other institutional, reforms which government is out to do that related to taxation will be easier to superintend and manage, simply because electricity will enable businesses to blossom. So we do hope that, I do wish government good luck. I do wish all of us good luck. And I must say that Nigeria, we definitely are upbeat about our development. When Senator Adamu spoke about us beginning together with Brazil, well, it makes you, gives you a heavy heart, simply because the Brazilians have gone about 100 times now stronger than Nigeria. But we began off together. Kaduna's NDIC, the Defense Industries Corporation, began off together with the Brazilian Defense Industries Corporation. And the Brazilian Defense Industries Corporation is now producing Tucano jet fighters and other high-tech goods, whereas our own NDIC in Kaduna is confined to making furniture and perhaps, providing maybe a few implements and no more.
Thank you, Dr. Ali Adamu from our Kaduna Network Center, and we must say we thank you for being part of Tweezy Live tonight. And back in Abuja, in conclusion, a few words. Let me start with Dr. Chinebu. As we move on as a country, your concluding words. Hope, is it lost?
No, but hope is not lost now. We are moving forward. I just want to say to Nigerians again, Nigeria is marching forward. I want everybody to sit tight, put on your seatbelt, get ready to drive, join the moving train. This country is not going to go down. As men that got against Nigeria, God himself will get against them. Nigeria is moving forward. I believe that our development is stable and is going fast enough. Stable and fast enough. But I also want to encourage Nigerian women, please, let us come together. Women, Nigeria, come together. Let us find a way, because we have the key to that Aso Rock. We have the key to governing this country. Yes, I believe that Nigeria's women can do very, very well. There's no doubt about it. We can do far, far better. Nigerian women, we can do good. We can do well for our country. We are not extravagant. We are not going to chop our money, because one of the problems we are having in Nigeria is that the men just take this money and they buy houses all over the world. Okay, an average Nigerian, excuse me, yes. No, an average Nigerian woman will want to develop her home, we want to develop this country. I love Nigeria too much. Okay, I love my country. Today, I wore green, white, green, and you need to see me. When the minister says, you're a true Nigerian woman, I'm a Nigerian woman, and I want Nigeria to be developed. I don't have any other country. This is the best country in the world. Let me pause to say that nobody will give you a cup of tea. There is no free tea in even a free town. Nobody will give you a cup of tea outside Nigeria. But if I come to you now, come here now, you will serve me water. Nobody will serve you a cup of water elsewhere. So Nigeria is a home to belong. There is a way we work in this country, we will attract so many foreigners. Please, government, distinguished sir, Your Excellency, Nigerian men, please give Nigerian women opportunity to take Nigeria to the next, to the higher level. Thank you very much. Well, Senator Abdullahi Adamu, the president has made a clear call to Nigerians, but paramount here is the team that works with him at the federal level, at the state, not mind the political party. After elections, it is governance. What do you say to them before we go?
Well, before that, let me say a word or two on the issue of hope. There is no question. When there is life, there is hope. There is hope. Once you take away hope from a human being, there is nothing to live for. We have cause, we are moving, we are making mistakes here and there, but I'm not afraid of making mistakes. I'm afraid of not doing anything. In the course of this, I make some mistakes. I hope I can live to know the mistake and correct it along the line. The issue of election, yes, election is over. And we are now, our shoulders are on the plow now. And everybody is trying to give his best. The president has chosen his team, the members of the Federal Executive Council, and other operators within the executive arm of government. Ours is to maximize support for them and to continue to tell them that we have hope that they can deliver on the promises we made for this country during the elections. That the president is desirous, it's more than he has a burning desire to ensure that he delivers. The expectations are extremely high. Okay. But I believe that the president I know is up to the task.
Thank you so
much. Let us
be
be a little more patient. Let us be a little more accommodating. Let us try to reduce the excessive tribalism or fault finding in excess. Every Nigerian has a right to want to know what's going on. Every Nigerian has a right to hope to have the best possible from his government or her government.
For heaven's sake,
it takes our collective effort to deliver.
Thank you so much.
The president alone cannot do it. We must, everybody must be on deck.
Thank you very much. On that note, Tuesday Live concludes tonight. But before then, let me quickly thank Senator Abdullahi Adamu, Chairman, Senate Committee on Agriculture and former Governor of Nasarawa State. Thanks for sharing your thoughts with us on the program.
It's a pleasure.
And Dr. Sally William Tinubu, it was nice having you on the program.
Thank you.
Senator will carry your message to the President.
Yes, he has to.
And from our Kaduna Center, once again, we thank Dr. Ali Adamu who shared his thoughts with us. Thanks for being on Tuesday Live tonight.
Thanks, true.
That's it on Tuesday Live. We looked at Nigeria at 59, the journey so far. As much as time could allow, we took us through all the various aspects we could take. On behalf of all of us, thanks for watching. Bye-bye.